Hi folks, I am back at the allotment today. Full spring is well and truly over. It is blooming freezing, but it's Sunday. We've got a whole day free, so we are up at the allotment to do a few jobs, and I've got something very exciting to show you. My God, it's so cold today. I've got to watch where I'm going a little bit because the ground is uneven. So I said in my last video that I had a little bit of an announcement, and it's quite an exciting one for me. Might not be so much for you guys, but I've taken on a new allotment. All of this behind me, all the way up to the top, is my new patch. On top of, let me just turn the camera around, the original half plot. So I now have a 1.5 size plot to do with whatever I like. Now, obviously, I'm feeling very, very excited about this, but also a little bit overwhelmed. But we made good with the half plot with a few hours work, so I'm hoping we can do the same with this one. This new plot actually was looked after by the same bloke for about 40 years. He sadly passed away a few months ago. The plot was lying empty for a few months, and so I spoke to the council and asked if I could take on the site as well, and they said yes. So there's a lot of work to do, and we also have an inspection coming up in 2 weeks' time. So today's job is to get both plots ready for the inspection, but before we do that, I would like to give you just a little bit of a tour and see what we're working with. So come with me. So I'm currently stood in the divide between what I'm calling the old plot and the new plot. So there's a little alleyway here. This with the compost bins and the water butts is part of the old plot, and then this with the toolbox is the new. So the new plot starts here. So we've got a toolbox. I have had a look. It's got some really useful stuff in it, some tools, dibbers, some netting, but loads of spiders. So I need to get somebody brave to come in and sort that out because I can't do it. This needs going through. There's some rusty bits, rusty rake, but also some useful stakes and bits of wood in there. Now over here, let me zoom out a little bit. So I've got plans for this already. My thinking to try and deter the spiders was to put in something that might eat said spiders, or at least prevent them from coming back. So we're covering this over to kill the grass, and then eventually we're going to dig in a pond to bring in lots of frogs and other beneficial insects. And I also want to build a herb spiral, so stay tuned for that. That's what all these bricks are for. So if you haven't seen a herb spiral before, it's just a really good way of growing herbs in a compact area, and using sort of gravity and rainfall to grow different herbs all in one area. So I'll do a tutorial on that when we get to it. So that's what that cardboard there is doing. Behind here, I'm not sure what these bushes are yet. So we've got our sage, gooseberry and currants, and then this I think is some other sort of currant bush. And apparently if you touch the leaves and then smell your hands, they smell like black currants. It's black currants. So yeah, I can't smell anything, so not sure what that is. Look forward to seeing that. And then, so as I mentioned, this has been looked after really well by the chap who had it last. So we've already been able to harvest some bits off of it. So we have a patch here of purple sprouting broccoli, and there's some there that we can take home today. This has been really nice actually. Love a bit of purple sprouting, something that you don't get in the shops very often. So really enjoyed harvesting that over the last few weeks. And then we'll come across here. Now, by the looks of this looks like a few mounds, which I believe must have been potatoes. I'm not sure what else you would have grown in sort of soil looking like this. I don't really grow potatoes in ground, so this is going to turn into something else. And then we have a very healthy looking leek bed. So I've already had, you can see a few leaves that I've chopped and dropped here. I'm leaving them in the ground for as long as I can. They'll still continue to bulk up. I have had a few already and they have been absolutely delicious. Moving on up, I'm not sure what this was, but we will just need to chop all of this down. I'm just going to do a chop and drop situation, so chop off all the dead stalks and leave them where they are to mulch into the ground. So here we've got another random leek, which I might just pull out for neatness. And then I think he started having all of his brassicas here. So these, you can see a few down here. These are all Swedes. And then moving up, we've got carrots. Again, I think these are probably past their best. So I will probably end up pulling these out. Similarly, parsnips just in the next row. Some of them look all right, but as you can see, we've got a few quite manky looking ones here, so I think they are probably past their best and probably not very nice to eat. Moving on. This is all quite blank. And then I'm not sure what we had here either. There's some quite thick stalks which have already been chopped and dropped, so I'm just going to carry on with that and again leave them to mulch the soil. And then at the top I've got some tyres. Now, I've never really used tyres to grow before. I've heard mixed opinions on whether they're good to grow in or not, because obviously if they're damaged they may leach harmful chemicals into the soil and therefore into the roots of your plants, which you don't want. So I'm going to do a bit more research. I'm going to check them over and check there's no damage, but I mean, this guy's been growing in them for years, so we will see whether they stay or go. If I do keep them, I'll use them for something like courgettes or squash that like to have that sort of heat around them. But yeah, a little bit more research needed. If you have grown in tyres before, let me know in the comments how that went, what I need to look out for, and what sort of crops go well. I would like to learn from you, if possible, please. So the plan today is to get this ready for the inspection that's happening in a couple of weeks' time. So we've got a bit of tidying up to do. I've only had this plot for about 2 weeks, so I don't think they're expecting miracles from me, but I do want to make it look at least vaguely presentable. So Adam is currently down the bottom digging up some raspberry canes, which we want to move. And then we're going to strim around the edges, do some chopping and dropping of the weeds, and then tarp from here where the tyres are probably down to where that black water butt is, because I'm not going to be planting that anytime soon. If we can take it further, then I will, but for at least this bit for now will be enough. So let's get cracking with that. Good job. So great timing there. By the time I'd finished the tour, Adam had finished digging up the roots. Great job. So let's go and move them somewhere else. The reason I'm moving them is because they are too close to the edge of the plot, and so when we want to strim the grass, we end up strimming the canes down as well, which isn't great. I'm not sure whether I've put them in deep enough here. Looking back, it looks like possibly not, but it's really no big deal. If they don't make it, that's fine. I will buy some fresh ones and pop them in over the winter later on this year. I'm just trying to use what we have, but if that doesn't work, that's not a problem. So just a quick update on the compost rhubarb. the one that I didn't want to grow here is actually doing better than the ones in the ground. I mean, Adam just stood on this one, so it's looking a bit flat. And there's the other two. That's probably the next best one over there. But look at this! I can't believe it. Luckily, I've got some plot neighbours over to my right who really like rhubarb, so guess what they're getting? Now, full disclosure, I hate strimming, so I did about 5 seconds here for show, and then Adam took over while I moved on to the next job. Thanks, Adam. All these curly bits. Or bits of straw, presumably.
So it took a couple of weeks, but I finally got my hands on some strawberry runners, and Ellie and Tom next door, in exchange for the rhubarb I just gave them, have given me some strawberry runners from their patch. So I'm finally able to plant up the vertical guttering planter that I made a few weeks ago. If you haven't seen that tutorial and you're interested in building it, I will link it in the description box below. God, I am rattling through these jobs today, although I think the next one is going to be a little bit more time consuming. And yeah, this was a bit more of a time consuming job, but really it wasn't much of a hardship. I think on closer inspection, the gentleman that had this plot before was growing courgettes or pumpkins up here because all of the stems were quite thick and ridged, and they had sort of like little hairs growing on them, and they reminded me of squash. So it looks like I'm on the right track by putting squash and pumpkins into the tyres. That's probably what he was doing as well. I wish I could remember because there was some overlap from when I had the old plot to when he was here. So all that was left to do then was just to tarp the top over. So there was some weed suppressant membrane in the toolbox on my old plot when we took it over. So I've been using that up as much as I can. I've now used the very last of it, so I'm going to need to get some more. But this will just make sure that the light can't get through to the weeds below, and will hopefully kill them off in time for me to plant all of my summer squash out. And that is all the jobs completed. Not bad for a few hours work, if you ask me. Now, I don't have any dramatic before and after pictures, but this just goes to show that by going to your allotment regularly and ticking off just a handful of jobs every time, it gets you closer and closer to your goal. I hope you enjoyed this little garden update. I've got big plans for both plots, so if you fancy seeing them turn into something beautiful and productive, hit subscribe and come along for the ride. Until next time, have a great week. Bye.